Hello and welcome back everyone to Stylized Environments with Blender for Geometry Nodes. In the last lesson, we left ourselves off by getting a nice setup for the rotation, or where the bucket would be placed for it going inside of the well. We're going to go ahead now and actually get ourselves a nice setup for the framework that's going to go to support this weight. So for that, we're going to start off by actually getting ourselves a nice cube to be placed right at the front. Let's go ahead and do that. This will be just to make sure that we're hiding this cylinder away, to make sure that it actually looks like it belongs in this location, supported by our piece of chunk of wood. And yeah, that looks about right for the size. I think that's okay. I think we might even raise this a little bit more. I do want this to be basically placed in the way that's going to be above half point of this, whilst at the same time not going too far out, because this would otherwise look like it would about to break. It would look like it would not support the weight of the roof. So let's go ahead and have a look at this. To make this actual shape, instead of just a cube, we're going to make use out of the bevel functionality. We're going to hit tab. We're going to select this edge by clicking 2 and selecting the edge. And we're going to hit Control B to drag it out like so. But this is going to bevel out in this kind of direction. We want to make sure that it goes inwards. So for that, we're going to change the shape. If we set it up as 0, it's going to give us this kind of setup. And it's looking much nicer, although it's a little bit too much. So let's go ahead and lower the width a little bit. For the segment amount, I think keeping it as 5 is going to be okay. So maybe let's see if we can get away with 6 actually. It's not going to be too much. I think 6 is actually better. Let's go ahead and keep it. And this thing itself, this cube, has to go a little bit more inwards. It's sticking out way too much. So let's go ahead and do that. And I do actually want this to be lower down. So with the selection for the face selected over here, I'm going to turn on the proportional editing. I'm going to click GZ and just slightly move it downwards with the size of the proportional editing set around this amount, so it will be longer. Then that looks a little bit better. I'm going to grab the other side over here. It's a little bit too thick, so let's go ahead and click G and Y, move it inwards like so. Make sure that proportional editing is actually turned off for this part. We want something like this. I think that's going to be looking quite nice, going inwards like so. And let's have a look from a distance. Yeah, I think this looks very nice actually. We're going to bring these upwards a little bit like so. We need to make sure that we now actually set ourselves up with the planks to cover this upper section, or the middle section of the roof, that is. It's going to look so much nicer overall. Let's go ahead and find the planks that we're looking for. And we do have a geometry node over here for the planks. Going to hit Shift D, GX, put it up to the side, increase the count a little bit, and I think we should probably lower the width a little bit as well, or maybe increase it actually. Let's go ahead and place it on the roof itself and see how this looks like. I'm going to select the top of the roof, click H, and just hide everything out of the way so we'd actually see how it's being covered up. And I'm going to click GZ to move it upwards. And I will actually just rotate it around itself. So let's go ahead and click RZ90. So it will be going this kind of direction. The reason I want this direction is because the one underneath, this cylinder over here, is going to look a little bit odd if it's going in the same, everything is going in the same direction. So, but just having this going in this direction instead, in the opposite direction of the cylinder, it's going to, I think, look much nicer if we look at it from the bottom, for example. So we don't actually need that many counts, so 7 might be quite all right. I think that's looking quite nice actually. I'm going to click GZ, move it downwards, and we don't need to do too much. Maybe take off the gaps a little bit. So holding Shift, I'm just going to lower this to a value of 0.008, and that looks quite nice, I think. And we don't really need to touch it too much. Again, the reason being is that this is going to be hidden underneath, but we just wanted to cover it up like so, and that's going to look pretty nice overall. All right, so I'm happy with the overall setup. Maybe just drag it outwards. So actually I'm going to take off the count and increase the width a little bit, like so, and there we go. That's going to give us real nice setup. All right, so now we can actually have a look on how this is going to look like. And I'm going to grab this, those 3 pieces that is, lower it down so it would be slightly hanging underneath. So we'd have some space for our rope actually. Something like this. Actually, yeah, there you go. We do need quite a bit of space. I will actually raise these up a little bit. Click SZ and just squish them down actually. We don't need them with the this thick. Like so. SZ again. Too much. There we go. Something like that. We'll increase the length a little bit. So something like this. So it'll be touching the borders over here. They're not going to be visible on the corners themselves, but we do want to, from the bottom, to seem that there's no gaps over here. They don't just look like they're floating. And the texture itself, we can leave it as is. From the bottom, it's going to be quite all right. Let's go ahead and keep this. Then we're going to start working on, actually, let's go ahead and double check if this is going to be enough for the rope. I do want to increase this height a little bit, so it would be sitting in the middle section, just a bit, middle section like so. And there we go. There we go. I'm quite happy with this result. Let's go ahead and click Alt and H to hide everything. And I'm just thinking if we should keep these or not for this particular part. But now I'm still going to keep it, but I'll show you a way to hide this out of the way. And I did realize that we do have this part still visible. So GZ, this is not necessary anymore. We can go ahead and delete it like so. We don't need to worry about that. Now go into this part. Let's go ahead and hide the roof. Let's grab this. Right click, shade auto smooth. And this piece is needing to have a bevel. I'm going to click Ctrl and A, rotation and scale to apply that. Hold Shift, lower the amount to quite a small amount, like so. Right click, shade auto smooth. That's not looking quite as nice. Wondering why that is the case. Because it's triangulating this part, and this part is not actually, this is an N-gon, it's trying to bevel it, and it's going to give us this type of a setup. As you can see, it's giving us a bit of an artifact. So in this particular case, because we're beveling, it's messing ourselves, it's messing our setup. It's going to be actually quite visible in the renderer. So let's go ahead and actually fix that real quick. We're going to select both ends like so, right click and triangulate faces. And basically this will take this N-gon, which is essentially a polygon that has more than 4 faces. So something like this is a normal topology. It's a simple quad, but something like here, it was just a lot of vertices surrounding it. And when it was beveling, it didn't know what to do. I'm actually going to make sure that we have this selection back on. And then once we triangulate it, let's go ahead and see. And we should have gotten rid of the issue that we had. To make it a little bit nicer looking, we can actually go ahead and fix it a little bit at least. We can right click and we can set it up to tris to quads, which will remove the triangulated parts as much as it can to a quad version. So they're not going to be N-gons, but they're going to be looking a little bit better with less overall vertices, not vertices, sorry, edges that are connected. So yeah, I'm quite happy with this result. Let's go ahead and now well, add the wood to the setup. We're going to now go on to UV editing. There we go. Going to click A to make sure that we select this chunk. Click U, Smart UV Project. Let's see how this wood looks like. I don't like this rotation actually. I'm going to go ahead and click R90. There we go. And I'm going to make it a much smaller. Something like this. Big, bulky, chunky piece. Just wondering what's going on with this part. So this part, you can see that there is a seam. I really don't want this to be visible. I'm going to go ahead and find where these pieces are basically. Going to actually just select these like so. I'm not going to select the top, only this part over here. Now we can go ahead and click U, and actually we can make use out of Smart UV Project. Let's go ahead and do that. We're going to increase the angle limit, which should fix it for us. Let's go ahead and have a look. It doesn't fix it for us. Smart UV Project. Does it fix it for us? It does, because the angle does not reach higher than 89 degrees. It's going to give us the right setup. I'm going to just lower down this to make sure that we have a more of a grain for this setup. And I'm quite happy with the result. Now for the roof itself, or actually before doing the roof, I'd like to add wood texture to this as well. We might as well do it since we're at UV editing. Let's go ahead and simply add a wood. So I think we're going to use the same wood again. There's no reason why we shouldn't. And it's already looking pretty nice actually. I'm just thinking if we should do something else to it. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and select it all. And here in this particular part, the UVs are stretching. Not sure if it's visible quite enough. I'm actually going to click isolation button so we'd see it a little bit better. So the wood is actually stretching over here because we stretched out the cylinder. But I think it's actually working quite well for us because it smoothens out the overall grain. If the grain has like jagged edges, it just goes up and down a little bit. Once we stretch it out, it goes more horizontally. So what I mean by that is if we select this, we can click S and Y and then increase it. We can see that these lines that were stretched out, now they go up a little bit, down a little bit. But for this particular case, having it stretched out might actually work in our favor. I will like lower the resolution a little bit so we get this sort of a look. And I'm quite happy with the overall result actually. This looks quite nice. So yeah, let's go ahead and leave it as is. We're going to go out of isolation mode, back to modeling. And now we're left with the upper section of this roof. So we're going to continue on with this in the next lesson. Thank you so much for watching and I will be seeing you in a bit.